Hi, folks. Sunday, of course, is the day that we read from the Bible. I always find that a bit sacrilegious because it's Monday when I read from what I consider to be the true good book. If just bear with me for a second, I would like to read a quick passage. It's the forward. It's the forward to what I consider my gospel. If you just bear with me a second, please, I really appreciate it, people. Drive across the border from Somalia into Ethiopia and take the road that crosses the Ogaden and then winds on to Addis Ababa. If you follow your nose, you'll come to the town of Jijiga. The town's name is spelt a dozen different ways on a dozen different maps, so please don't write. Jijiga is a sprawl of a town, dumped at the edge of the desert. It's a natural crossroads for trading, and the camel trains sway through the city streets loaded down with wood or anything else that is in demand. In the centre of the town is a bar, called Bar. To find Bar, just go down the main street, turn left, and walk for about 50 yards. There it is, behind a doorway set in a wall that runs by the side of the road. On a Friday night, early in 1994, I'd driven into Jijiga with an overpowering thirst and been advised that Bar was the place to see and be seen. To be honest, both are nearly impossible after dark. The street outside has no lighting, and inside there are two rooms with a bare electric light bulb in each. The effect is a little like one of those old expressionist German films, with faces being suddenly and frighteningly illuminated and then disappearing into the shadows. This is one of the last frontiers, where the aid workers who are scattered all over the desert drive into town on a Friday night to mix and mingle. The night I was there, the place was packed with shadowy figures shouting and laughing at each other in English, French, Norwegian, just about every European language. I squeezed inside, bought myself a beer, and leaned up against the wall talking to a mad American who claimed he was in the CIA, but who actually turned out to be a convoy driver. There was a little ripple as a couple more people forced their way into the bar, and a very clean and sharp, rather Sloaney accent cut through the air like a knife. Is Simon Bates here? I've been told that Simon Bates is here. My companion turned and said, Yeah, he's here. Who wants him? The voice belonged to a slim and tough-looking woman of about 30, with bright eyes, who said, I want to meet him. If it really is Simon Bates, then this is the biggest thing to happen in Jijiga for years. As we drove back to the UN compound later, my companion said dryly, I guess you've really made it to international stardom now. You could put that in your publicity and your CV. Simon Bates, the biggest thing to happen to Jijiga for years. He paused and added gravely, maybe it would make a good epitaph. Gravely. Epitaph. This is so in keeping with the mood that Russell Martin is walking into tomorrow night. This, of course, you'll know straight away. The minute I read the first few words there, you would have recognised that as being the foreword to the legendary My Tune by Simon Bates, the autobiography. Probably, I think, the greatest autobiography ever written. Nature, ecce homo. Tried your best, Friedrich, tried your best, but ecce homo, 4 syllables. Simon Bates, My Tune, My Tune. Two syllable title that nails it. Everybody knows. I mean, nature went mad, but Simon Bates, he lived in a madcap world. He watched the madness, and he turned it into something beautiful, sentimental, that cut straight to the heart of everybody, every citizen of these great British Isles. But the dedication in this book, I could just read from it endlessly. I would quite happily read every chapter to you. But the dedication is to Rob and Sue for opening my eyes, and to Martin for always collecting the tapes. Martin for always collecting the tapes. Did Russell Martin not say that he watched the tapes of our games last season? I don't know who Rob and Sue are, but Russell Martin, he watched it. Maybe didn't say tapes, but he certainly said he watched our games. Maybe it's just one of the things, the memory stick things that the kids get and they shove it at the side of the laptop. Or it's maybe a link sent to him from Auchenhowie of all our games last season. Maybe it's just because I grew up at a time where Betamax is still more popular than VHS, and these days people don't even know what Betamax or VHS or a VCR is. But I felt as if he said tapes. But he watched the tapes, he watched the videos, he watched all of our games last season, and yet somehow people think he doesn't know anything about how to manage Rangers gravely. Epitaph. How you doing, folks? This is your Fatek. Rangers are about to play their 10th European tie against Belgians, and we've only lost one of the previous 9. And also Russell Martin is about to manage his third European match at Ibrox. He won the first one by 2-0. He won the second one by 3-0. And yet somehow, given both those factors, for the club and for our head coach at the moment, everybody thinks we're going to lose this tie. This game tomorrow night by 4-0. Preview pod coming to you in association with Jersnet. Check out Jersnet. I've not had a chance to watch it myself, actually. It was Scott and it was Ross, so it'll be absolute quality. The lads were on last night, the flagship show, 9:30, and they were looking back, obviously, what did and didn't happen against Alloa at the weekend, and looking forward to what will and won't happen against Club Brugge in this first leg of the Champions League playoff tie. At Ibrox on Tuesday the 19th of August 2025. So I'm talking to you on the Monday. I'm sponsored by Jersnet and I'm also sponsored by Miele. The Immer Besser, the adverts are on television just now. They do white goods, basically. They do white goods. It's your fridges, it's your cookers, it's your wash machines and dishwashers and spin dryers and all that kind of stuff that Miele do. And for years, decades, I just assumed they were a Belgian company, but I don't know why I assumed they were a Belgian company. But then I do know why I assumed they were a Belgian company. And they disappeared off the map. I was down. I just worked this out a few hours ago where I actually was. You go on a lot of holidays to English places, and eventually they all get. You get to my age and places you've been, and you're like, sometimes you've got a picture of a certain moment in a certain street on a certain day, and you think, where the hell was that? What town was it in? I know it was on holiday somewhere. I know it was somewhere down south, but where was it? Was it Skegness? Was it Scarborough? Was it Leeds? Was it Birmingham? Was it just the different places you've been to in your life? I knew it was in England, and I just eventually, it was Harrogate. No, Harrogate's a bit posh, and it was in one of those areas. I was sitting in a park. We didn't go to Harrogate in the summer. We were there kind of winter time, and I was sitting in a park. My wife must have been in at a shop or something that I couldn't be bothered going to, and I was just sitting in a bench, just looking across the street, and there in the corner of the street was a Miele shop. I think it was folk who actually did maybe shop fit, would fit your kitchens for you, kitchen fitters or something like that. They had a big posh stuff, all the stuff they would put in. But it was Miele. I think it might actually be a Miele shop, or it's certainly at least sponsored by me. It was a Miele distributor or seller, retailer. I'm thinking, God, I've not seen them for years. I've seen them for years, and I thought, where is it, Miele? And it's the advertising hoarding that Kenny Dow jumps over after he scored the winner in the 1978 European Cup final at Wembley against Club Brugge, for Liverpool against Club Brugge. In the days when Graham Souness was still called Graham Souness by Brian Moore, the great Brian Moore. I was just trying to go strong. I was just trying to go strong as he played one of the best balls ever played in a European Cup final. And Kenny Dow goes in there in Wembley. It's the old circular, the oval, like at Hampden, oval-shaped stadium. Wembley was way back then, and the grass kind of D behind the goals. And he goes, and I think it's a row of photographers that are always kind of square on the byline. Is there advertising holding along the byline? Square on the byline? I can't remember. But he certainly goes, and it's the semicircle of advertising holdings behind the goal. He goes and he jumps over to go up to the Liverpool fans across the track, the Greyhound track at Wembley, and up he goes to Liverpool fans behind cages, because those were the days. And it was it's Miele advertising hoarding that he jumps over. So for somebody in the back of it, I realised that's why I always think it's Belgian. And because Club Brugge were their opponents that night, Liverpool, they were wearing an all white kit. They were wearing all white with a little blue trim down the sleeve. I think it might have been Puma. It certainly wasn't Adidas like it was in the 1976 UEFA Cup final. 2 years before that, Liverpool played Bruges and beat Bruges in the old days where the UEFA Cup final was home and away. They beat them in the UEFA Cup final, and Club Brugge were wearing all white in both legs at Anfield and in Jan Bredel, but it was Adidas, and they had the little three stripes, but in their blue. I thought for years that was Club Brugge. That was their kit. That was Club Brugge's kit. It was only when Rangers played them in the Champions League 92-93 probably that I realised, no, it's the blue and black stripes they play in, kind of Inter, Nerazzurri, kind of Atalanta. That's quite a thing. But yeah, it was number 7. Kenny Dalglish scoring against them. Kenny Dow scoring against them in the 78 European Cup final. The last time Club Brugge were in a European final. And 2 years before that, it was Kevin Keegan, number 7, who scored against them home and away. He scored against them home and away. Both those legs. He scored a penalty against them at Anfield to complete a comeback. They'd been 2-0 down, Liverpool, at home. Bruges has scored 2 goals in the first quarter of an hour. Big guy, Cools scores the second one. I always thought that kit was really cool. But it's, is it, what's his name, Renard Lambert? Renaud Lambert, anyway, Lambert. He scored the first goal for Bruges, and in the second leg, from open play, in the second leg, Keegan scores. It's a direct free, I think it's a free kick, but Emlyn Hughes knocks it to the side, and Lambert has just scored a penalty to level up the tie. But the second leg, and Keegan scores from a free kick, but the ball's been rolled to the side, so does that count as open play? He fires it into the edge of the box. Emlyn Hughes just knocks it to the side, and he batters it in. So that's like he scored from open play and a penalty across the two legs, and Lambert scored from open play and a penalty across the two legs. It's all very kind of, I find it very interesting, and they probably thought 2 years later when they got Liverpool in the European Cup final, that number 7 that absolutely terrorised us, Keegan, and he scored in the 73 UEFA Cup final as well. Keegan, he's away, and he terrorised Borussia Mönchengladbach in the 77 European Cup final. He's gone, he's away to Hamburg, we'll not have to deal with him, and in comes Kenny Dalglish, who had scored the previous year at 77 in the home internationals against England at Wembley, and Willie Johnson went into the photographers. Remember that? He cuts the ball back, he goes into the photographers at the other end at Wembley as he's cutting the ball back, and Kenny Dalglish sclaffs it in at the back post, having also put it through Ray Clemens' future teammates' legs. In 76, after Clemens had just won the UEFA Cup, or was in the process of winning the UEFA Cup with Liverpool against Club Brugge at Hampden, the 76 home international, Dalglish puts it through his legs for 2 years in the trot, and that was the first international game I ever remember watching, was the 77 game at Wembley, where we beat them 2-1 under Ali McLeod, beat England 2-1, in a goal scored by Gordon McQueen and Kenny Dalglish, whose daughters are now running British football broadcasting, and it's all the better for it because the two of them are fantastic. So yeah, that's what I grew up with Bruges. I just thought they wore all white. The thing I was trying to say there is, because I was ranting a bit there, this is more kind of coherent. In that UEFA Cup final in 1976, Liverpool were 2-0 down, as I said, to Club Brugge in the first leg at Anfield, and then they came out in the second half and they scored 3 goals in 6 minutes. Round about the kind of 55 minutes into 61 minutes, pushed past the hour. So we thought that was the first time they'd done that when they played. They were 2-0 down, and they went, they're leading 3-2 in that game, that final, their first leg of the UEFA Cup final in 76. But in Istanbul in 2005, in the Champions League final, Stevie G, a future Rangers manager, so it's all connected. It's starting the comeback there. He started to come back. That was 3 goals in the space of 6 minutes, wasn't it? Just round about the 55 to 60 odd minute mark, or 64, 58 to 60, whatever it is. That's 6 minutes. Scoring 3 goals in 6 minutes in a European final. It's something Liverpool have done twice. And then Mohamed Salah scored 3 goals in 6.5 minutes against us for Liverpool in the Champions League. At Ibrox, that's the competition we're playing into. Well, not quite, it's a playoff round. But yeah, that's it. Anyway, my name's Alec Anderson. Crash. Bang. Wallop. What a video. And I'm talking to you, as I say, this colossal tie. Rangers playing Club Brugge, and I feel it's a bonus tie. We weren't meant to get this far. We were meant to be scudded, weren't we? Somebody liked my use of the word scudded on Saturday's post-match reaction pod, so I can't stop using it now. We were meant to get leathered by Panathinaikos in the very first European round we played this season, but no, we beat them, and everybody thought we did have a chance against Victoria Pilsen, and we blew them away in the first leg and did the business, albeit it was a bit shaky in the second leg. Did the business. We're basically 2 rounds further on than we should be. We've already guaranteed ourselves at least Europa League group stage football, but it's been turned into, this guy's going to cost us £40 million if he can't get through this. No, he's done well to get us this close to getting £40 million. Let's not change history. Let's not change how we really felt about this. I say Russell Martin himself having to try and remind us all about the joy of football. It doesn't have to remind me, because European football will always be a joy. I have to, before I go on and on about Club Brugge and how that was. They've played 2 European finals, Club Brugge, the 76, both against Liverpool, lost the 2 of them. 76 and 78. Liverpool didn't win. They also, you'll probably know, Liverpool beat Borussia Mönchengladbach in the 73 UEFA Cup final, and then beat Borussia Mönchengladbach in the 77 European Cup final. So they split it between Bruges in the 76 UEFA Cup final, and then Club Brugge in the 78 European Cup final. It's quite weird that the way they arranged it. But 73 Liverpool winning their first European trophy. We won one the previous season. 66, Liverpool losing their first European final that they played in. Well, 61, it was a Cup Winners' Cup and it was at Hampden. 61, we lost our first European final, but we were there 5 years before them, and we played. So it's not just Bruges that we're generally better at in Europe. And it's that thing where Club Brugge have played the big one. They're the only Belgian side to play in the big one, in the European Cup final. We've never played there. We've played 5 European finals. They've only played 2. They've not been in one. They're coming up in this is their 50th anniversary season of their first ever European final. 48th anniversary of the last ever European final. We've been in one. We were in a European final just less than four years ago. So I don't know. It depends. Everybody's panicking that we're going to get absolutely leathered by Bruges, and I think it's going beyond that. I think some people actually want us to get leathered by Club Brugge. I have to apologise for the. And I'm talking about Rangers fans want us to get leathered. Anyway, sorry folks. This is the latest episode of your big fat man trapped in a box. Big fat man trapped in a sweat box. I have to keep the window. I told you I have to keep the window shut in here because I don't want the neighbours hearing. I haven't had the football conversation. I was saying this in the Alloa post-match reaction pod. I haven't had the football conversation with the neighbours, and I've been in here 3 years, and I want to keep it like that. But I think most of the neighbours are in here. There's a few folk I know that are really into Partick Thistle and into Rangers. I think they're fell down the street as a Rangers fan, but I don't want to. Even then, if they don't want to talk about that, that's absolutely fine, because you know what it's like. It's actually, I'm more worried about the people who are not right into football, just have a passing interest. Because even if you don't like football or you're not interested, you'll see stuff. Scottish news, the stuff comes on the main headlines, and that Rangers stuffed 5-0 at home by Club Brugge, Russell Martin's job on the line. And they're like, oh, that felt. Somebody tell me that guy does podcast, the guy that I don't really talk to that often. I just, say hello in passing, and he's always dead nice, and we talk about the weather and that. And next time I see him, I'll maybe mention that to him, just so that I kind of care about his life. Just show a bit of neighbourly concern. And I say it, and it happened after the Alloa game. It happened. That's why I keep the window shut. I don't want folk hearing me ranting on about fit, because the noise travels. It's quite a close street and all that, and I really want to stay here for the rest of my life because it's nice and quiet and peaceful, and I don't want to ruin that by getting into it with somebody, because I know what will happen. As we're saying on Saturday, you did that thing, you come out the car and somebody will innocently, you're just trying to get for the car, you're raging because you've been at the game where we get beat 5-0 by Bruges at Ibrox, and you're just trying to get to the front door, and a neighbour who's just out taking their bin out, it's a run bin Sunday, and they'll come out and they'll just go, team didn't play very well, and you're like, fuck, you're just no in the mood for it. You're in your last nerve. You need like 24 hours to calm down and become mature about it again. But I did it. It happened the other night, and I just lost it. I just totally volley of total sickening abuse at somebody who was just saying to me, well, your team didn't do too well. They were supposed to beat Alloa by more than that. I'm hearing, and just all escalated, and I felt terrible all night. But next day, guy came to the door, and he's saying to me, that's the first time my mum's been out in 3 years. She's been housebound. She's in her early 90s. She was only trying to make conversation with you, mate. She just thought you were into it. I'm the one that ended up in the hospital. You know what I mean, mate? And if she's going to get in about it, but I'm the one. I mean, they Zimmers, they can just. It's like a cosh, but at the same time, it's like, can poke you seriously when you're on the deck. They shove it, so I'm trying to make sure that doesn't happen again. I had to keep the windows shut, and it's just roasting again in Glasgow. So I'm going to start talking even more nonsense than I already have. And I have to apologise. The heat even being out of the sweat box on Saturday. Ibrox itself was a sweat box, and then I'm morbidly obese. That's my fault. But outside, it wasn't until I watched my post-match reaction back to kind of split it up into wee chapters to make it more palatable that I realised the heat and my age and. Just absolutely, I was making so many mistakes, but I think a lot of it was about a depressed Rangers fan talking to me through the game. Everybody else around my area is quite reasonable and quite, but there was a definite air. There's been an air, a slightly, the toxicity is just waiting to erupt round about Ibrox just now, and I get it to a certain extent, but I really don't. In the most part, I'm starting to wonder that we are just depressed as a support, and it was causing me to make a lot of mistakes. Mostly, I described all the goals that we scored against Alloa in the League Cup. There's 6 goals in that game, and the only one I described correctly was Tavernier's penalty. It was Tav's penalty. I went in off the bottom post, and even I was like, did it hit the bottom of the post? I think it might have, but I got the way he'd hit it and where the ball ended up. I got all that spot on, but the actual penalty itself, the incident, I said it was Danilo that was pressuring the fella who ended up handling the ball, and it turns out it was actually Cortez. So that's great. That's fantastic. I'm always getting, I'm getting myself into trouble. I'm always lecturing other folk about potentially racist stuff and all that, and that's me just getting in there with an absolute classic. So shame on me for that. But it was just generally all the goals. I just got them completely wrong, and the descriptions of it. I mean, I seen the ball was hitting off. What'd you call him? Hit off Joe Rothwell's lower regions, hit off his kind of abdomen area. I thought he was lying in the deck half his cooping. Although I'm going to, I mean, that goal was so horrendous. It's just, I mean, I got the kind of shocking nature of it absolutely spot on, but I got the description, the moment of impact, the ball going over the line, that was completely incorrect, and I missed it. I didn't even realise Giga was woefully to blame until I watched, I fast forwarded through the live coverage when I got back into the house that I'd recorded and heard him. What's his name? The guy, the fella that's on BBC. That's what I mean. My brain's gone. It starts getting it's so warm in here that I now got Michael Stewart. I didn't get. He was really concerned, deeply concerned. Rangers defending woeful, terrible, awful. He's really, really, the guy cares for us deeply. I think he's really concerned. He's going to have to calm down. It's going to be okay, Michael. We're going to be okay. But thanks for the concern, mate. I was getting everything absolutely wrong, and the worst of it was, why are Alloa not called the Bees? That'd be really good because of the wax thing. I did a thing about Song to the Siren. I sang a wee bit of Song to the Siren, the Tim Buckley song, which everybody knew, everybody our age. I know we're on our 50s now, but everybody heard it first. This Mortal Coil, the Cocteau Twins kind of side project. But I tried to do a Song to the Siren, and I think I said, and you said swim to me. You said swim to me. You said you sang sail to me. You sang sail to me. You know what I mean? It's called Song. I know it's Song to the Siren, but the Sirens, what are the Sirens famous for? Singing. They're not going to say to you, hey, Odysseus, hey, Ulysses, you big, Jason, oh, here you come, mate. No, I got that completely wrong. So that's really inexcusable. It was you sang sail to me, let me enfold you. And I think I said unfold you, let me unfold you, like you're a programme that I've had stuffed in my pocket during the game. It was just an absolute nightmare. It was Circe, she was the one that told, the goddess that told Odysseus or Ulysses who you want him to avoid. If you're going back to Ithaca for Troy, what route you going? No, you want to avoid the Sirens because they'll just do. You probably better take the M74 extension, the bypass, and just watch out for the potholes in the Shettleston Road. They're absolute murder. But she said just go and avoid that. And what he did with the stuff their ear, the stuff that wax, and he wanted to hear the song, the Siren song. So you got this at school. He ties himself to the mast, or he gets his mates to tie him, his men to tie him to the mast, and they all put wax in their ears. So the Sirens actually be getting revenge because when they get in their 40s and 50s, they boys, every time they go for a shower, it's like, oh, I can't get that bit of water out my ears. It's just sitting down. They've dried half the rest of their body, but they're trying to have a cup of tea and it's just, I feel clatty because I've got that bit of water stuck in my ear because the wax that they put in there. But that was, it'd been quite good. Alloa, the Bees, the wax and the Sirens. I could have tied it up. Really, I could have made it much more poetic and kind of accurate, really. But it was, my points are kind of absolutely horrendous because I couldn't work that out. But I've got a segue somewhere in here. She's a siren, and of course, segue incoming. Many of you are thinking, I'm one of the sirens right now. I'm trying to lure you into the rocks of supporting Russell Martin when he's obviously going to. The rocks of St Mirren and Paisley, Celtic at Ibrox, Club Brugge Tuesday night, and again next Wednesday. That's the rocks on which Russell Martin will maybe crash fatally if you listen to my song of support. So many people just really got a downer on Russell Martin, and I'm finding it a bit, I don't know. I was doing a Macbeth quotes and Apocalypse Now quotes that were all over the place. The brain was just totally gone. I was getting them all wrong, and I think I'm also thinking about a theme tune. I need to do a theme tune for my podcast. Yes, on a good podcast. What flagged up for me the other day, Rangers Rabble, sensational. Rangers Rabble podcast, absolutely brilliant. The theme tune. I'm used to is it Ditch Digging by the Jingle Bunnies? That was the one on Jersnet. It's like the technical aspect of my pod is absolutely shocking. If I'm going to start monetising this. I really need to give you some sort of minimal service. But what was the other? The Rangers rabble. It's kind of a mixture of the Jimi Hendrix Experience and maybe the Doors. It's absolutely thumping. It's a brilliant theme tune they've got, but I think they have to pay money for that. I think there's this like kind of royalties licensing thing going on there. So I think I'll do my own. I've got a mouth organ here somewhere. I can maybe improvise with that, and it's Alex Pod. Oh my God, he's a big fat sod, and he's on his Todd. It's Alex, but it's like Shawnee's show, isn't it? My God, showing my age there. But that kind of thing, I could do something like that. If you get any ideas, let me know. I would like to get myself a wee theme tune. I think I'll have to sing it myself, though, because I can't really afford to license a tune by anybody else. I'm trying to avoid talking about the game because I'm going to be negative about Rangers fans. I don't like doing that. And I know it's not every Rangers fan. It certainly isn't every Rangers fan. I think the vast majority, maybe not even I think maybe just over 50%, getting towards 60%, are quite patient at worst with Russell Martin, if not actually enthusiastic about what he's trying to do or believing in what he's trying to do. But there's a real vibe into this. You're watching other podcasts and you're getting messages. And this fella was talking to the other day. He was just talking about what's the guy, Josh Mulligan. We've drawn Hibs, news update, other news. We've drawn Hibs in the League Cup quarter-final. They beat Livingston yesterday, so Hibs having a great season, having a great period now. Their takeover, or partial takeover by the Bournemouth fella, the Bournemouth American, that's going well for them just now, and they're getting very confident. Thank God it's not at Hampden, mind you. We've got a honking record at Hampden. Have we beaten Hibs in a semi-final or final since Super Ali's overhead kick at Parkhead, which we probably won just because it was played at Parkhead? I don't actually know, but aye. So Hibs are coming in the League Cup quarter final in over a month. It's the 20th of September, 21st of September. I think they'll be coming. They're coming to Ibrox. Michael Stewart thinks it's going to be really hard. Before Livingston had even been beaten, he was salivating at the idea of Hibs giving us a good going over at Ibrox in the League Cup quarter final. So I fucking bring it on, you prick. I'm quite looking forward to Leathern, the bastards. I can't fucking stand them. Sorry, it's really bad language. Sorry, that doesn't help with that doesn't help apparently with your algorithm swearing bad language on your podcast. But it's warm. I'm getting uptight, and I think you get things like that going on just now, like somebody asking after the game, and somebody asking Russell Martin about Jaden Meghoma, who have just signed. They hadn't signed at that point in time, but the question's so loaded. You're going to get a wild card, a bit of a wild card signing with Jaden Meghoma coming in at the last minute to be a left back, and he's like, it's not a wild card signing. We've got a whole department that's got all various signings lined up, obviously, but everything, you get mainstream media, there's a lot of kind of genuine nastiness there. Everything's going to be it's kind of shit stirring. But you even get fan media in there who are asking, and that's what I am. I'm not fan media, really. I'm not media in any way at all. I'm just a big, this is like an ongoing diary, really, isn't it? But a lot they're genuinely worried. If the boys have been a bit negative or whatever in the press, it's because they're genuinely worried and they're trying to express the fears and worries of other fans, but they're not half as bad sometimes as the mainstream media guys. And between that and Michael Stewart, just another controversial penalty. That's two in a row, two Saturdays in a row. Rangers got a controversial penalty, their only penalty. I haven't got no penalties for the entire first half of last season, but really controversial. I don't really know why the referee's given it, why VAR hasn't overturned it or given it whatever. It's with all that going on, we really need the supporters to be getting on board and to be getting behind the team, and which they will do at kick-off tomorrow night. It's not as if the place is going to be half empty because there's so much proper doubt about. But Kieran Dill came to take a corner even before. One of the mistakes I made in my reporting. My reportage after the Alloa game was just saying it was a central defensive nightmare for Rangers. The goal we lost in the second half to Alloa. We won both halves 2-1. That'll do fine. But it was Kieran Dill failing to turn round and face his man, do his job properly at the back post. So I think it still is a bit of a central defensive thing, a bit of a problem. But it was Kieran Dill was the problem. But it was before that. It was long before that he came to take a corner. And there was a fella sat up behind me who, there's a lot of folk come to these games, a lot of regulars, season ticket holders who don't turn up at games that are off the season ticket, and a lot of folk who are not season ticket holders who do turn up at these games. There's a chance for them to get to the game. And he's sitting there and he's just like, fuck off, Dill. Just fuck off. Not shouting it, but at the same time making sure everybody else could hear. And that's just. It's a Rangers. Apart from anything else, a Rangers support you're talking. Of course, I'm not saying anything. The guy, I'm not the coward that's saying it now, hiding behind my podcast. But the atmosphere is absolutely horrific at times at Ibrox just now, and I just don't believe there's any great need for it. It's a kind of hanging, drawn, and quartering is what we seem to be waiting for. I think he's been getting hung since the moment he came in. Russell Martin is, or was it us that we feel we went through the trap doors, clonk, away we went, oh, it's Russell Martin's the head coach, clonk, and I wasn't particularly enthused about the prospect of Russell Martin, but I think he comes across really well, and I think he knows what he's doing, and I can see the plan from the club, and I can see it at times. Russell Martin, what he's trying to do, and it's pretty much everything we've heard about him indicates it will take time. And it seems to be on course because it's far from perfect, but we have had that 3-0 leathering of Pilsen at home when you saw the plan. You have seen it, working at various times. You've seen little clips of what it will look like, and we've been complaining for a decade about legacy problems with the team at Ibrox. Well, it's not going to be resolved to any effect in the space of 2 or 3 games. So I'm quite happy the way things are going just now, and that includes the setbacks. It includes the moments where our defence looks terrible, our strikers look non-existent. That just seems to me is part of the problem. That's supposed to take time. Therefore, that's how it doesn't work. That's why it's not working. That's the reason. That's the components of it not working, of it taking its time, are the bits that aren't working on the pitch in any given game. So I'm not particularly worried about anything at this point in time. It gets to Christmas and we're still playing like this then, yeah, but some people just, it's the hanging, drawing, quartering, and I think this is the quartering. The drawing was 1 each at Fir Park, 1 each with Dundee, and the quartering is going to be these 4 games. Home and away against Club Brugge, because they're going to scalp us. They're going to scalp us. It's a different level. We drew 2 each from a friendly with Robin Proper and Leon King playing the centre half, but I know we took them off at half time and they made a lot of changes as well, but still. And they're going to absolutely leather us. And in between times, of course, we're going to go to Paisley and we're going to lose there because we always got a nightmare in Paisley, even under our Club Brugge manager, captain, icon, Philip Clement. He couldn't handle Paisley, but somehow Club Brugge are going to leather us, and Russell Martin's going to get leathered at Paisley as well because he's the same as St Mirren are good. St Mirren know what they're doing. It will be a really tricky game next Sunday, but it has been for just every other Rangers manager of the last 10 years or so. And then we're going to be having Celtic at Ibrox, and that's the thing. That's kind of 4 different games, quarters, if you like, quarter. It's going to be quartered across these 4 games. Russell Martin's going to get absolutely spanked in each of them, and that'll be that. He'll be gone. He will need to get leathered. I mean, it would need to be kind of 9-10 goals across the 2 games against Bruges. We'd need to lose at Paisley and take a real scalping off Celtic for it to be even considered sacking Russell Martin. This club's getting improved. This club is getting pulled right back to basics and rebuilt again in terms of the coaching, in terms of the squads, and I think it's going to happen whether the fans want it to or not. And that's where the venal base, the venal characteristic, essential venal characteristic of 49ers Enterprises and Andrew Kavanagh actually will benefit us at this point in time. Now, if there's some sort of crash in the global economy and they just need to get out, they will leave us just spinning in the wind, and no two ways about it. But just now, that kind of viciousness that they have of not really caring about our emotions, just as far as it doesn't affect them, I think they know this is the way to improve Rangers. Russell Martin's the kind of guy that's going to do what they think needs doing, so he's not going anywhere as far as I'm concerned, and I'm quite happy to get on board with him, man. We signed Jaden Meghoma, a young fella, 19 years old. I feel like it's yet another video I'm watching of a fit young man in shorts talking on Rangers TV. I'm getting kind of Orton and Halliwell going to Morocco, was it Tunisia, whatever it was. It's getting quite dodgy. I'm feeling getting dodgy levels. But he's 19 years old. Seems like a lovely young fella. He's from Slough, which is David Brent. That's what he works, Slough. And somebody was telling me the day that they think Russell Martin comes across like David Brent. Very cruel, very cruel. But he's a new left back, is he? He's a new left back. They're certainly trying to get him into the squad, into the European squad. He might be in it. It'll need to be by now, by the time you watch this podcast. The time I'm recording it on Monday night, he needs to get in that European squad. I think we've got Tello Asgard and Mikey Moore into the European squad for this tie. We need to get Jaden Meghoma in there as well. He's a young fella, born in Slough, went to Spurs for his youth career. He's just in June, I think he turned 19. We actually got him on loan from Brentford. He's been in number 30 because 3 has been taken by Max Aarons, who might yet be playing left back tomorrow night if we can't get this guy registered in time. And he was at who was he before? He was at Southampton. That's the whole point. That he was at Southampton with Russell Martin. Russell Martin's worked with him before. In his little interview with Rangers TV, young Jaden was saying that that's a big attraction for him, was working with Russell Martin again. He really likes his style, same as Joe Rothwell said and demonstrated, and this is a big thing that we should be listening to from these players. They like his style, they want to come and play with him, and clubs are keen to loan us players to they know what Russell Martin's good at doing. They know he's good, basically. We've got him from Brentford. He went to Preston North End. I think that's his only real kind of run in a first team was in the Championship early part of this year. He was playing for Preston North End at the end of last season. He went there on loan from Brentford initially and did 12 games in the EFL. I think he's played like League Cup games, maybe an FA Cup game or something for Southampton and for Brentford, but never troubled their team when it came to league games. So that's probably a chance we're taking here. People are getting concerned about the number of loan players we have at the team just now, but I think we know what we're doing in long term. Sorry, it is honestly the heat, folks. I'm sorry, I'll have to keep doing this pod. Usually I would stop when I'm making so many mistakes and so many pauses and try and give you a kind of. I don't do editing, because I can't, but also I try to make it more genuine by not editing the thing. But the sound of one hand clapping when that hand is too sweaty to clap can be quite boring. I understand that. But yeah, young Jaden Meghoma, we're trying to get him into the side for this match against Bruges. Very young, but he is an out-and-out left-back, and this is because, I don't think it's been confirmed yet, but Jefte is wanted by Palmeiras. I give you my thoughts about that on Friday night's preview pod before the Alloa game. Diogo Bonito is a cracking player. He's a cracking potential, has Jefte, but I think that was another one that was bubbling under for certain people on Saturday and in social media, etc. I can't believe we're letting Jefte go and Yilmaz. We've not got a left back. Jefte was responsible for the goal we lost and the horrific performance. I was joking about how nervy it was and all that. We only lost by a single goal over in Pilsen, having won the first leg 3-0. But Jefte was responsible for the first goal we lost. He takes the main responsibility for falling asleep. It's something he did in the League Cup semi-final as well, I think. Was it last season against Motherwell? He had his moments. He was really good at taking the ball, going forward, bombing on, giving us a lot of energy, etc. But I don't think he was never the kind of player that the Russell Martin fancied. He only got drafted in there because injuries and we couldn't get a left back, blah blah blah. But no, it's I don't get why people are suddenly upset at the fact Jefte, who's not, remember that was the thing with Tav. He's not a defender. I don't care if he scored 133 goals for us. He can't defend properly, which is also completely wrong. There's certain moments that Tav can't defend or doesn't defend well for Rangers, but he's generally a pretty good defender, as well as being utterly sensational with the assists and the goals. But this was the thing, he can't defend, and yet, Jefte, who scored 1 goal for us last season, had about 3 assists. Terrible at defending at times as well, but somehow we're supposed to be upset that we're selling him for £6 million. I mean, sell-ons and clauses and things like that, we're going to get 5 at least just now, and it's going to 5 million, and I think we'll get more when he does. If Palmeiras can turn him into a player, then an all-round player, then he will go for big money elsewhere. But as long as we get a sell-on from that, I'm not worried in any way, so I'm quite happy with this bit of business. I'm hoping we're going to be Levski Sofia. We're going to be the Levski Sofia to Club Brugge, who did well in last season's Champions League, got themselves to the last 16. They're in the semi-finals of the Conference League the season before that, then the last 16, I think, of the Champions League the season before that. They are, doing really well in Europe just now, but I'm hoping it's that thing. We did really well in 92-93 when we played Club Brugge in the Champions League. The only other time we've played them in Europe. We beat them 2-1 at Ibrox, the famous Scott Nisbet game, and we drew with them at the Jan Bredow, 1 each. I feel as if the following season we were so kind of, we're a goal away from the final. Let's get to that point again when you're not used to doing it. No, let's get to that point again where we're on the cusp of the final. You're thinking about that when you go into, you have to reset and go back to the kind of playoffs as it was in the early rounds to get you into the Champions League group stages. And we got Levski Sofia 3-0 up against them at Ibrox. They come back to 3-2. Or was it 3-1? I think we were maybe 2-0, then 2-1, then 3-1, then 3-2. It started going wrong towards the end of the first leg, and of course it went very wrong right at the end of the second leg. But I'm hoping we can maybe be a bit Levski Sofia. That's if we actually want to get into the Champions League group stages. Yes, we do. Of course, we want the money. I don't know if we want the Leatherins, but I feel as if we're Europa League standard right now, and maybe when we're trying to reset ourselves, get ourselves ahead of the game, catch up with ourselves in domestic terms, we should be doing. The Europa League would be enough to keep us okay. Try to deal with Champions League in this kind of rebuild season. It would be really tricky for the domestic stuff. You need to be putting so much more energy into your European games to avoid absolute doings in that, which would affect your fitness going into all your domestic games, but could also have a serious knock-on effect in terms of morale going into domestic games, which seems to be the main concern of every Rangers fan. So I don't get. Because we've been great in Europe for 7-8 years now, fantastic in Europe, totally overachieving consistently. It seems to be that the people who are more kind of knee-jerk and more angry with the situation at Rangers, it's because we're not winning the league, because we're not doing better in domestic terms. Right, that's fine. So you can't really be complaining then if there's a chance of us not getting into the Champions League group stages. This is bonus territory we're in just now. His press conference today, it was the ode to joy, Schiller did the words, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Beethoven wrote the symphony. It's the anthem of Europe, the ode to joy. Well, Bernstein kind of rejigged it a bit when the Berlin Wall fell down, but Russell Martin was talking about the joy. He's telling the players they've got to enjoy themselves, they've got to feel the joy, they've got to enjoy working hard for their teammates. We have to give them the clarity as a coaching staff, he was saying, to give them the tools basically to go out there and enjoy the game. But even when they're doing the small things, the dirty stuff, the graft and working hard, enjoy that, enjoy seeing their teammates enjoying themselves, celebrate even the small wins together, the small moments together. And he was talking about his mum. His mum's getting in touch with him to check that he's okay because she's seen stuff in social media. He was talking about some of the staff that have been at Ibrox for years, non-footballing staff around the place. He was talking about the maintenance guy on Friday who'd given him a good one-liner. And he's talking about the rest. There's this people are kind of unhappy, and I think people can cynically say, well, it's your job, Russell, to make us happy. Fair enough. If he'd won both these league games in charge, maybe we would be a lot more happy. But I feel it's just at the start of a project. He has had obviously felt the need today to come out and try and remind us that football's cheery. And I get what he's talking about, the atmosphere. I think our fans are split into kind of 3 categories of misery. If you're one of these Rangers fans who's just like, and I was talking to a guy the other day, it was just such doom and gloom. Number one, I think you get a lot of fans who are just worried by what they're watching just now, and that's fine. We're rank against Dundee, against Motherwell, not very impressive against Alloa, but as I say, you make 10 changes to the team. It's something that's happened throughout eternity when Rangers are playing against lower league teams. They just bring in all our fringe players, and it obviously affects the rhythm. You just get through those ties, and we did. As somebody was saying to me in the comments the other day, what we would have given for 4-2, winning by 4-2 against Queen's Park the last time we played a lower league team, the last time we played a domestic cup match. We certainly would have. But I understand if people are unhappy with the fact that the team isn't clicking at all in a lot of games just now. Number 2, I think there's that type of miserable fan who's looking at somebody who's miserable by nature. I get that because I have my moments myself of being a bit down, a bit downcast about life, but it's almost like a lot of people think optimism is asking for trouble. It's kind of almost like depression to me, and I feel as if a lot of us as a support are getting kind of depressed, almost this inability to enjoy anything. And I get why the manager's making the statements he was today. And number three, I think there's the type of fan who actively wants Russell Martin to fail because that type of fan, for them, being right is more important than Rangers winning. In which case, I think you just need to stay away from Ibrox. You're not a Rangers supporter. You need to reassess what it is to be a Rangers supporter. This whole thing of risking a slagging. They can't take the thing of you're a football supporter. You're putting yourself out there. You're declaring your love for a football team. It's a silly thing. I know it means the world to us. Look at who you're talking to. Obviously, it obviously means the world to me, football and Rangers in particular. But if this idea that you're a happy clapper, you're part of the problem, blah blah, that doesn't apply. That mindset, that ultra realist thing, that does not apply to football because you're paying money to watch 11 men kick a ball about. You're a tube. We're all tubes. We're all being idiots. We're trying to make something different out of life. It's a life less ordinary. We're trying to go out there and just make something out of watching a sport, a community out of it, to sit in that and just go, if you back your team and they get beat, you're going to get slagged by Celtic supporters and me for ever having been optimistic. That's beyond football. That's a real that's a real cheap shot, I think, at anybody who supports their team, especially if you're claiming to support the same team. It's the kind of converse of saying I'm not going to a funeral because it's going to be such a downer. You know what I mean? Just grow up and realise that immaturity is the main thing about being a football fan. Immaturity but fun immaturity. This other Celtic fan at work getting in my face. Fuck them. And they support Celtic. You know what I mean? You support Rangers. It's just this idea that Rangers only exist to you, only count if they're winning. I just don't understand it at all. He knows the Bruges coach, Russell Martin, Nicky Hayen, who managed a Welsh Premier League team. I think they must have played them in friendlies or the Welsh Cup or something. I don't know if Swansea reserves going to that or what happens in that one. But I guess Swansea, Newport, Wrexham, they used to get in the Cup Winners' Cup, didn't they? Via the Welsh Cup. So maybe they play in the Welsh Cup proper as well as the FA Cup, or the English FA Cup, as nobody calls it. But so the Bruges manager used to be in charge of this Welsh Premier League club not that long ago either, just like a couple of seasons ago, so 2 or 3 seasons ago. So it's quite a thing. While Russell Martin was at Swansea, so he'd met him, they'd had chats about stuff, but he's saying this has to be about us. We can't get too caught up in worrying about Club Brugge and how good they are and what they're going to do. And it's going to be a far different game from the 2-each draw last month. But I think that's got to be good for us. The fact that Club Brugge are thinking, well, we went 2-0 up against them, and they changed it up and they come back to 2-each. Rangers, so it might give them an idea that something, and they'll know their history against us in Europe as well. That might put them on the back foot a wee bit, make them a bit more cautious. But if we get pumped by Bruges, well, that's what happened to Gio. That's when the man who got us to our last European final and won us our first Scottish Cup since Walter Smith, and he get pumped at the job by Celtic and Liverpool. So maybe Russell Martin can get pumped into it via Celtic and Liverpool results. It was a draw at St Mirren. Was Gio's last game, not a draw at Paisley. His last game in charge. So watch out, Russell, or maybe it'll be a poetic way for him to announce himself properly to all the doubters in the Rangers support. Somebody was asking him, £40 million stake here, is this the biggest match of your life in terms of pressure? Basically, I think they were trying to say it, and great answer. He was just talking about being manager of Southampton when they played in the English, the Premier League playoff game. I don't want to call it the Championship game. The two teams that get through to the Championship playoff final to get promoted into Premier League. He says there was no people's jobs at stake and stuff like that. I think it's a lot more money as well. Basically, the richest game in the world, wasn't it? The Championship playoff match at Wembley. So he won that. He's been in more pressurised games, but I feel as if people are worried about Jayden Meghoma going in at left back in this game. I think it's because he's too young, and we don't like defenders being too young. If it's a striker, that's fine. He's going to be gallus. He's going to be great. He's going to be a wild card. Derek Johnson, 16 years old, scores a win in the League Cup final. A defender, Leon King, kind of breaks into the first team in the 2 games against Liverpool, but conceded 9 goals. Not that they were his fault, but I think we've a genuine difference in attitude towards defenders and strikers when it comes to being young players. But I think they'll be absolutely fine if we can get him into the team just now. At least we've got a left back there. Stevie Clifford of the 4 lads had a dream in Rangers Review. Asked the manager at the presser today if people are talking about how people are being really negative, but could he get kind of positivity by turning it round? Everybody's saying, what if we get hammered off Celtic? What if we get hammered off Bruges? But is it not a case of what if we do it? That was a good question. If we beat Bruges and we beat Celtic, and that led Russell Martin to saying it's not a false positivity. I think he was going to be thinking back to what he said earlier in the presser. He might have sounded like a bit of a happy clapper himself, a bit David Brent, but he said it's not a false positivity or unrealistic positivity. It's a real positivity, and that suits me. He's basically meaning you're going to get a really hard game. You're probably going to get beat off Bruges over the 2 legs, but gain something from it, learn from it, enjoy the experience, and take it into your next games. It's an unrealistic positivity, not an unrealistic positivity, a real one, and that suits me. Not pie in the sky, not down in the dumps. Just look at what can happen if you do really well. Aye, it's a weird. It really is a weird kind of atmosphere around the place right now. Club Brugge, 19 league titles, 19 Belgian league titles to Anderlecht's 34. But Brugge are second, a long way behind Anderlecht. They probably got a fright last season when Union St-Gilles was, who they've seen coming for a while, won their first title in like 90 years or something like that, and but that took them to 12. That made them third. They consolidate their place third in the all-time Belgian league winners table. A bit like if Queen's Park had won the Scottish Cup. Aberdeen had managed to beat them, and that was a kind of playoff for third place in terms of Scottish Cup titles. But I think Aberdeen are still 1 or 2 behind Queen's Park. Queen's Park are third behind Rangers and Celtic. They're third in the all-time winners of the Scottish Cup list. It's a bit Union St-Gilles was kind of come in there and did that. So they finished second, 3 points behind Union St-Gilles was in last season's Belgian Pro League. Did Club Brugge in Belgium. That meant at this point in time put them straight into the third qualifying round of the Champions League. Union St-Gilles got straight in the group stage. So that's Tony Bloom involved at Hearts, getting a big payoff on his involvement at Union St-Gilles was. So Marat and Kavanagh, no doubt hoping that they can do the same, get an early payback for their investment by getting us into the group stages at the first time of asking. But last week, when we were playing Victoria Pilsen, Bruges were finishing off the job against RB Salzburg. After a little scare, they drew one each. They beat them 1-0 in Salzburg in the first leg, and then Salzburg went 1-0 up in the Jan Breidel, which holds less than 30,000. They share it with Kerkel Bruges. I mean, we are the bigger club here. We are the bigger club. But they come back to win 3-1 at home. So they've gone through 4-2 in aggregate in the third qualifying round, the same as ourselves, Club Brugge. And thanks for nothing, because I was really needing to see it. I've still never seen RB Salzburg. Need to get them off the list of European finalists. Bruges were Club 79. And as I was telling you when we played them in my post-match reaction pod to the friendly we had against them last month, I was talking about that pennant there behind me. I bought that outside the ground before the game against Club Brugge when Scott Nisbet scored the winner. Fantastic goal. We scored, often forgotten. It's a great goal. The 1-2, the slick play with Hateley and Durant, and Trevor Steven, Ian Durant slotting the ball away to put his 1-0 up early in the game before big Lorenzo Stallings equalised. Was that after we got down to 10 men, where Stefan van der Heyden, last season's assistant coach at Rangers, he got into the stramash with Mark Hateley, and he gets sent off, and it seemed that was alleged to be all part of Olympique Marseille's fix. I don't know if Mark Hateley, I saw him, I think I tried to catch him on camera after the Dundee game last week, my post-match reaction there, so I wonder how he got on with Stefan van der Heyden when he was doing his hosting at Ibrox. He must have bumped into him a few times after that one, but we beat Bruges 2-1 at Ibrox, having drawn one each of them. Peter Hoystra scoring the Jan Breidel. Bruges scored the first ever goal in the Champions League. Daniel Amakachi against CSKA Moscow. They scored the first ever goal in the Champions League, the group stage, the same night we were drawn 2 weeks with Marseille at Ibrox in the first ever night of the Champions League group stages back in 1992. But 1992-93 season, but we got to say, as you know, we drew 2 each with Marseille at home, then we drew 1 each with them in the Velodrome in the penultimate game of the group stage. If we'd won that match, we would have been through to the Champions League final. It meant that Marseille still maintained an advantage over us. Into the last round of games, they were going away to Club Brugge, and we were at home to CSKA Moscow, so we had to do better. We had to go one better than Club Brugge. Not only did we have to beat CSKA Moscow, we needed Bruges to do us a favour, so we had to go one better than Marseille. Marseille won 1-0. Alan Boxic, who scored at Ibrox as well, scoring early on, and that was it. That was the end of that game. It just finished 1-0 to Marseille. And Bruges, I think that was the first game they'd lost, or only the second game they'd lost at home in about the last 50 they'd played in Europe. They got a really good European record. So it's Belgium known for dodginess, Belgium known for corruption when it comes to the football. So I have every belief that they were in on it as well. But it's down to us to try and finish the job. So we beat them over the 2 games, Club Brugge in that 92-93 Champions League, but they might still have had the last laugh on us for a bit of cash, a bit of a backhander by lying down a wee bit to Marseille in the last group game. They got Marseille into the final because Marseille, of course, they bribed Valenciennes in the league before they played in the final that season, the Champions League final. They also, I think, like Anderlecht are proven to have bribed the referee when playing Nottingham Forest in the 83-84 UEFA Cup final. This is Anderlecht, who that was them reaching the UEFA Cup final for the second year on the trot in 83-84 against Nottingham Forest in that semi-final. They lost the final to Spurs in 84. They beat Benfica in the final in 83 to add to the 2 Cup Winners' Cups they'd won in the 70s. So Anderlecht are they've won 3 European trophies. They also reached the Ray Kennedy scored when Liverpool went 2-0 down to Club Brugge in that 76 UEFA Cup final first leg. Ray Kennedy scored, I think, maybe the first goal of their comeback. And Liverpool eventually won the thing. And Ray Kennedy also scored, a 19-year-old Ray Kennedy scored for Arsenal against Anderlecht in the first leg of the 1970 Fairs Cup final. The Fairs Cup becoming the UEFA Cup, of course, in a couple of years' time. A couple of years after that. And they were 3-0 down. Arsenal were 3-0 down at Anderlecht, the Constant Van den Stock Stadium, and Ray Kennedy scores a goal to make it 3-1, and then Arsenal win the second leg 3-0. So he's used to starting a comeback, or he was the late, great Ray Kennedy. Used to starting comebacks in UEFA Cup finals was Ray Kennedy, class player. But Anderlecht played in multiple European finals. That's 4 Cup Winners' Cup finals, because they lost to Sampdoria in the 1990 final, and 2 UEFA ones. So that's 3, 4, 7 European finals Anderlecht have played in. They won 3 of them, whereas Club Brugge are the only Belgian side to play in the big final, but they've only played 2 European finals, and Anderlecht, of course, many more league titles. Anderlecht more famous as well in Europe because they're 3 straight Cup Winners' Cup finals. 76, 77, 78 were sensational, sensationally exciting, even though they didn't win the middle one. So they kind of captured a lot of hearts round about Europe, whereas Club Brugge more. And I just think they played in all white, and it's because when they played Rangers in 92-93, we're still in that phase of, it's a really brief, I mean, it lasted about a decade. I was saying in my preview pod for the first leg against Victoria Pilsen that I thought the last time we'd played in the Cup Winners' Cup, the only European trophy we've won, was against Dukla Prague in, was it 81-82? But it wasn't. It was against Porto in 83-84. Porto put us out the Cup Winners' Cup in 83-84, but the home leg at Ibrox, we wore the white away kit with the blue pinstripes, white shorts and red socks, the kind of red home socks they were, with the red, white and blue fold as it was then. Great kit, fantastic European kit. We also wore a version of that against PSG in the Parc des Princes under Dick Advocat, and we put them out in penalties. That was white with the red socks, a great Rangers European kit. But I went to my first European game the following season. It's probably why I'd forgotten about the Porto game. I was at the Scottish Cup final in 83 when we lost to Aberdeen, who'd just won the Cup Winners' Cup, and that's the reason we were in the Cup Winners' Cup the following season, because Aberdeen were the holders and we'd lost to them in the final. Aberdeen didn't win the league. Dundee United won the league that season. So Porto would go on after beating us to beat Aberdeen, the holders, in the semi-final, and then Porto would lose the final to Juventus in the 83-84 Cup Winners' Cup. That was our last involvement in the trophy that we've won. The trophy won in 1972, the year before Liverpool won their first European trophy. That's 73 UEFA Cup. Us winning the Cup Winners' Cup a year before Liverpool won their first European trophy. We reached our first European final in 1961. That was 5 years before Liverpool reached their first European final. 1966 Cup Winners' Cup final. Also, they played at Hampden, that one. So, yeah, for some reason, I'm trying to make it we're better than Liverpool. We're not better than them, we just got there quick. But when Liverpool did start winning things in Europe, they really did start winning things in Europe. And it's quite interesting. Sorry, I'm just going to keep doing this because it's a joy of European football. Talking about Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp, he lost the Europa League final. Oh, well, Liverpool was that 2016 to Sevilla. He lost the Europa League final in Switzerland. And then he had them in 3 Champions League finals. 2018 lost to Real Madrid, 2019 beat Spurs, and 2022 they lost to Real Madrid again, didn't they, in Paris? Jurgen Klopp. I know he had Dortmund, obviously, in the Champions League final in 2013 at Wembley. But Bob Paisley wins it. He won. It was Shankly that won the UEFA Cup in '73, but Bob Paisley won the UEFA Cup in '76. And then won 3 European Cup finals with them in 77 and 78 and 81. So it's quite a kind of parallel there. I know it's a bit tougher to win these days, so maybe that kind of put him in the same footing as Bob Paisley. Jurgen Klopp, Liverpool manager, won the UEFA Cup equivalent and 3 European Cup equivalent finals. He only won one of them, but still, I found that quite a coincidence. So I need to stop doing that. So it's like the world's worst comedian. And anyway, Club Brugge finished second last season in the league. I think they beat Zulte Waregem, who are the best. If you can't speak Flemish like myself, or you can't speak Dutch, just say Zulte Waregem, and it makes you feel as if you can. They beat them 1-0 away from home at the weekend. Now, I think they've also beaten Genk this season, as well as losing to 1988 Cup winners KV Mechelen. They lost to them in the league, and there's one other league game. Well, I think they beat Kerkel Brugge in the Bruges derby. They beat them, so I think just now they're 4th in the league, but they're only a point behind. I think they're level in goal difference to Anderlecht, and they're a point behind Union Saint-Gilloise, who are top of the table after four games in the Belgian Pro League. But they did play Saturday, and probably a harder game for them as well, so that's something to bear in mind. So last season, they got to the Champions League round of 16. They get knocked out home and away. Aston Villa beat them home and away, but in the group stage, the new extended group stage, they drew at Parkhead, they drew with Juventus, they only lost 3-0 to Dortmund, who remember beat Celtic 7-1. They beat Aston Villa in the group stage, they beat Sturm Graz, they beat Sporting Club de Portugal. Most impressively though, they beat Gasparini's Atalanta, who were Europa League holders. They beat them home and away in the kind of playoff round, the post-group knockout playoff round that got them into the last 16, where Aston Villa disposed of them quite easily, but still it's good stuff. The Conference League semi-finals, they lost narrowly to Fiorentina the season before, and the Champions League the season before that, they got to the last 16. They were slapped about by Benfica there in the 2022-2023 Champions League last 16, but they came out of a group of Porto, Atletico Madrid and Bayer Leverkusen. Did Club Brugge that season, and they only lost one game. They lost 4-0 to Porto, having beaten Porto 4-0 as well in the return game. So they're heavyweights. They're Champions League regulars. They're heavyweights, but I hope that friendly made them think twice. For me, the team, I don't know. Oh, standard Liège. Sorry, our overall record against Belgians. I'm going to make the best of this. I always do in the first leg. Don't worry. The post-match reaction will be 5 minutes long, folks. We beat Anderlecht 7-2 in aggregate in the 59-60 European Cup. We then lost to Standard Liège in the 61-62 European Cup in the quarterfinals, 4-3 in aggregate. That's us up to the 92-93 Classic with Club Brugge, and then that's us nothing against Belgians until 2020-2021. A bit like myself with Club Brugge, seen them twice in 2 months now, after not having been at the Scott Nisbet game. I couldn't get a ticket. I was standing outside in the pee and rain, bought myself a pennant as well, and I couldn't get a spare ticket. bothers me still. That and the CSKA Moscow game wasn't at them. It's the only group stage matches played at Ibrox that I haven't attended, except for group stage matches in 2020, 2021, when nobody got there because of COVID locking down the stadiums. But yeah, we, not having played a Belgian team since 92, 93, we then got two of them in a row. In our 55 season, we had Standard Liège in the group stage, where we beat them 2-0, that amazing Kamal Roof goal from the halfway line. We beat them 2-0 in Liège, and then we got them at Ibrox, really tough game, but we won 3-2, really exciting game. And we went through to the round of 32, and we got Royal Antwerp, and we beat them 4-3 over there, and it was at 5-2 at Ibrox. Amazing tie, really eventful. But over the piece, we've only lost once to Belgians. Because remember, we beat Union St Gilloise twice. We beat them last season in the group stage of Europa League, and then we beat them, over the two legs. We beat them quite spectacularly. A couple of seasons before that, under Gio, at the third round qualifiers for the Champions League. So we've played Standard Liège twice, Union St Gilloise twice. This will be our second time against Club Brugge, and Standard Liège twice, Anderlecht once, Royal Antwerp once. So I think this is our 11th game. This is going to be this is two. That's 8. This will be a 10th game, a 10th tie against Belgians, and we're doing pretty well. The white shirt thing as well. As I was saying, I went to my first European game the following season after that game against Porto in 83-84. It was 84-85 against Inter, and we were wearing at home in the second leg. We're 3-0 down for the first leg, which I watched on the telly. The highlights on Sports Scene, Super Ali missing a header from under the bar at the San Siro after Ian Medford hit a free kick off the Inter post, the Inter bar. We get beat 3-0 over there, so it made it easier to get a ticket. Going with my aunt and uncle to my first European game in my early teens, and we beat Inter 3-1 on the night. Fantastic performance, nearly pulled it off, but we had the white kit on. But let me see Inter in their blue and black, the Nerazzurri stripes, same as Brugge's home kit. So I was quite glad when we played them in the friendly at Ibrox and Bruges last month. They're wearing their away kit, all white with blue trim, because that was redolent of the Bruges that I grew up thinking that's the kit they played in all the time, because I saw them in those two European finals, or certainly the one against Liverpool in 78, wearing their white away kit with the blue trim. But this was a period, I don't know when it started. It was certainly obviously 83, 84, it was in play, and it lasted up until 92, 93, because we played them at Ibrox with the opposite of that kit Mark Hateley's wearing behind me, with the blue panels on the white. That's a picture of Mark Hateley in the Marseille game. He just scored the equaliser against Marseille. He's advertising the game against Bruges, but when he gets sent off. But that night we were wearing the white shirt at Ibrox with the blue panels on the kit, and the blue shorts, and the red socks with the trim at the top of the fold. It was one of those proper Rangers away kits. It looks like a Rangers kit, even though it's an away kit. But we played in the San Siro wearing our home kit, the red and black socks and all that, and wearing Milan socks, AC Milan socks against Inter in the San Siro. But we played them into the Ibrox. We did it. So it must have lasted about a decade. This thing that used to be the home team would wear their away kit in Europe. And Bruges for me, they represent that time, because the one time they wore their home kit at Ibrox, I wasn't there. Big Scott Nisbet scoring the most emotional goal. I see it in the telly. I still see replays of that goal, and it makes me cry. I think I'm crying because I wasn't there either. But I just don't think we should start with this. He just cost us £40 million, Patter, when he's got us closer to the Champions League group stage, Russell Martin, than we could ever have expected. Everybody thought Panathinaikos were going to give us a doing, and we've gone not just through that tie quite successfully, but went another tie after that. This is bonus territory for us. Our European job is already done. In UEFA competition, we're ahead of schedule this season, and this tie is a bonus. Russell Martin's Ode to Joy today was bang on. Schiller's poem, the Ode to Joy, Beethoven's symphony, his Ninth Symphony, and it probably will go wrong tomorrow night. It probably will go wrong tomorrow night or tonight, whenever you're watching this podcast. But even if it does, just make the atmosphere one of joy delayed, rather than kind of self-hatred welcomed or misery embraced. It's the European thing is, it was a European anthem, the Ode to Joy, the anthem for Europe. This is European football. I would go with Jack Butland in goals, and then I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening after that, and it's a good thing. We're getting more players in, we're getting more players fit, we're getting more players available. I think it's going to be, if Meghoma gets his registration in time, the new fella will be in at left back. I'm assuming it's going to be Max Aarons at right back, but I'm not 100% sure. If Meghoma isn't registered, we've then got Tav and Aarons, and now we know that Tav did play at left back on Saturday against Alloa at some point, and Aarons has played at left back this season. So I don't know straight away. I don't know what's happening at fullback. It's going to be Giga and Suter. I think that's quite certain. It'll be Giga and Suter playing at centre half, and then at number 6, I don't know what's happening. Another thing that was discussed today, and it was quite notable. The manager might have been, trying to polish a turd or whatever. There have been rumours that Nico Raskin wanted away. The manager was kind of, having been so nippy about the fact, people were asking him about Mendy. Maybe it's because he knew that the guy's failed his medical, or it had all fallen through that transfer of Noble Mendy from Betis to Rangers. Maybe he was being nippy about that, but haven't denied he even knew anything about Hefty's transfer, or Noble Mendy didn't even knew who he was. At Friday's presser, when asked, is Nico Raskin falling out with you and is putting a transfer request, he was kind of, nah, I don't think anything like that. No. The tone, he was really cheery. I know he's got an ode to joy going on, but it just seemed like, something has gone on. It's like, he's asked, he does know that he's went and spoke to Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart about getting out of here, but hasn't come to the manager about it, hasn't come to Russell Martin about it, so he can have plausible deniability perhaps. But I felt as if there was a little kind of thing going on there. He was covering up the fact that Nico Raskin has been unhappy. And we know he's been unhappy because he had to give him a bollock and kind of publicly drop him after the Motherwell game. But they said, no, we've been working on videos, we've been working on what he's supposed to do, etc. And everything seems to be absolutely fine. It was a strange reaction. I thought it was overly cheery. So, and I expected Nico Raskin, like Hamza Egeman, to be gone by now. I thought they were going to be picked up straight away. And I'm not sure that either of them fit into Russell Martin's plan. But it would not surprise me if Raskin's playing at 6 tomorrow night. I actually, especially with Joe Rothwell playing against Alloa. I mean, Giga played against Alloa, and that doesn't mean he was. I think he's going to get rested for this game, but I expect Rothwell. I think he's going to be benched tomorrow. It's going to be Raskin at 6. Something just gives me that feeling, but I really can't tell you just now which one is going to be in there at 6. If Rothwell is in at 6, I expect Raskin to play up front. But if it's Raskin at 6, I think you're then looking at your two kind of 8s are going to come from Asgard, Lyle Cameron, or Diamande. I don't know if Asgard is fit enough yet. He didn't look like it on Saturday, but wouldn't surprise me if that's Dio and Lyle Cameron. And up front, I'm expecting still to be Gassama on the left and the Ant-Man on the right-hand side. Desser's supposed to be struggling for fitness. It's touch and go. And it's all about Belgians, isn't it? We're playing against obviously, Cyril Desser's born in Belgium, but a Nigerian international. But he knows Belgium, and so does Nico Raskin, who scored against Union Saint-Gilloise last season and scored on his debut, or scored on the managerial debut of our only ever Belgian manager, Mr. Clement. So there's a kind of, I think we want him playing against Bruges, really. But I don't know if he's doing the double bluff thing, Russell Martin. He said there wasn't going to be 11 changes for the game against Alloa, and there was 10. So I don't know if Dessers is absolutely fit, and I also don't know if his talk about Egeman absolutely not going to be starting against Club Brugge, because he's just not ready at all. It sounded quite genuine. He doesn't look fit or whatever like that, Egeman, and he was talking about trying nutmegs, which is a part of his game, is trying the nutmegs. Egeman, he's also spoken before, we'll need to teach him the system, how he's got to play. I don't know if he's got a problem with Hamza Egeman, or if it's all a big bluff, and he's going to have him playing starting tomorrow night. I doubt it. I think it's going to be Dessers or Danilo up front, and I think Mikey Moore, it's maybe going to be too early for him to come into the team, but I think he'll be on the bench and will probably make an appearance. Score prediction, I think we're going to go 2-0 up, and Bruges will pull it back to 2 each. I think that'll be the disappointment tomorrow. Will be Bruges will pull it back to 2 each, and your haters in the Rangers crowd will start giving it, well, I've chucked a 2-goal lead, and that, completely forgetting that the starting point for them was that we're going to get beat 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, we're going to get leathered by Bruges. That's just my wee kind of instinct. That's my wee prediction. 2 each, and the minute we go 2-0 up tomorrow night, I'll be absolutely raging that I mentioned that. The 2016 Scottish Cup semi-final was one of the most vital wins in Rangers history, as far as I'm concerned. It was that moment where we're still in the Championship. We know we're winning the Championship at this point in time. We're going to be back in the top flight next season. We just need to know, and it would be another 2 years before we'd beat Celtic, and again, but we need to know we can do this. Just to beat Celtic psychologically was a phenomenally massive thing. It was completely reversed by what happened to us in the Scottish Cup final against Hibs. Look forward to scalping them, hopefully next month. But it was massive to be the only lower league side to have won an Old Firm match. Is quite a dubious honour, but it was a massive thing, and it was something else to be there. It was a phenomenal day that we try to forget about now that we're ever down there, we're ever that desperate. But it happened, and I'll not forget. I was sitting there. I was in that bit of the main stand that kind of curls round the top tier of the south stand, the main stand at Hampden now, that kind of curls round and kind of sits just above the Rangers end. If you like, it was old section H or J was the one that was closer to the main stand. I can't remember, in the old Hampden, but it makes you feel like you're standing up the back of the old Rangers end. I was about 2 or 3 rows from the front, and I was sitting next to a lovely guy, quite well about himself, maybe a couple of years older than me. Didn't have a scarf on or anything like that, but he's just a regular guy. And I was kind of chatting to him through the game, but there was a fella behind me who was just... I get superstitious if I'm watching Rangers on the telly or whatever like that. I'll start predicting the thing I fear the most. I'll start saying it out loud, as a way to, kind of... It's just pathetic superstition, blacks. I never do this at the game, because I know what it would sound like. We're going to get beat, because we're beating, Man U, we're drawing 1 each with Man U. We're going to concede, we did. But after the game, I'll separate my real thoughts from my manic, kind of superstitious, kind of double bluff, try to double jinx what's happening on the park. It's just desperation. You're feeling so helpless about something you care so much about. We all do it to a certain extent. But there was a boy behind us who was older than me again, and he was voicing these thoughts. That was his way of supporting Rangers, and the fella beside me was just losing his shit. It's like, this guy, because you're tense, it's gone to penalties and that. It's back and forth, that game. We eventually win the game on penalties, of course, and I think when it went into extra time, I think he ended up having a bit of, I know they had a bit of a ruckus. The guy was going, just going to shut up with all that negative stuff, mate. Just going to shut up. He turned to say to this guy, and I'm kind of like, I don't want, the fella was directly behind me, and this guy's beside me, so they're kind of reaching across to each other. And the guy who was behind me, it was like, hey pal, I'll just support Rangers the way I want to support Rangers. You support them the way you want to support Rangers. And he leaned across and just kind of touched the guy as if to say, sorry. And the guy, don't fucking touch me. Don't touch me. And it's like he's had enough for this guy's part. I'm like, oh God. And as we're waiting, I think, for the teams to come out for extra time, or to have their team talk and their refreshments and start again at extra time, he's saying to me, what do you reckon? What do you reckon? When's the last time Rangers beat Celtic at Hampden in penalties or something like that? I think it was a Driver Cup final or something like that, And he kind of laughed, kind of mockingly laughed or something. I don't know if he knew or whatever. Or I was like, I think I said, 70s or something like that, as if maybe, I don't know, it's so long since we've beaten them in penalties. But I wasn't meaning it like that. But he did say to me, what do you think's going to happen? Probably for clarification. And I couldn't stop myself. I have such a thing about tempting fate, especially in the game, especially in the heat of the moment. And I was just like, this is. I mean, I give you my true opinion on these podcasts, but I think I said, they've done well enough just to get to this point. They probably now are going to, maybe they're disappointed that they didn't win the game in normal time. Maybe don't have the legs. Celtic have been playing at a higher level than us all season. And he was kind of laughing at me, but he just turned away and he said to himself, I didn't mean it. I meant, I think we can win this. I think we can win this. I think we can do this. But it was going to be so massive that I couldn't handle. I thought if I say it out loud, I'll ruin it. I'll spoil it. Even when another Rangers supporter who obviously loves the club is asking me the genuine question. And I couldn't quite bring myself to commit. And he just turned away, kind of laughing. And he just went, fucking Rangers supporters. I just thought, I felt ashamed, but at the same time, I wasn't going to risk breaking the jinx, And of course, we win the penalty, we're hugging each other like mad and all that. The whole place is going completely crazy. But I'll never remember that. So I'm not coming at this, my attitude towards Rangers supporters who I've got a problem with it. I almost wanting Russell Martin to fail just now. I know a lot of it is a kind of pent up fear that he will, trying to get there before he does actually fail, before we do, get leathered off Celtic at Ibrox. I'm like, we can't take it anymore. Blah blah blah. We've actually been doing really well over the past few seasons, but we're getting quarterfinals of Europe last season. We beat Celtic. We're talking about Bruges. Bruges, they drew at Parkhead last season. We beat Celtic 3-2 at Parkhead last season. I don't think there's any great fears at all. But when I'm saying Rangers supporters, a lot of them have been really negative. I know it just tends to be the louder Rangers supporters. It's more noticeable because it's so kind of borderline toxic at times. But I'm done that as well. I'm not coming at this from a superiority, like I know the way to support Rangers and what have you. I've done it myself, but I just hope tomorrow night, when the players are all coming off the park, having putting a cracking first leg and set us up to my ambition is in this game is just don't get stuffed. Just don't get stuffed. If we're going to go out with our heads held high, because we've gone much further than we anticipated under a brand new manager with so many new signings, settling in a brand new system. But I just hope they come off the park tomorrow night and we're all, hopefully we're all hanging about at the end, celebrating and applauding them off. Russell Martin just turns to his players and just goes, "Fucking Rangers supporters."